Hi, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bobby. I'm the co-founder and COO at CoinGecko. Thank you very much for taking the time to come attend this panel session at SC by SC. For today, we have three very distinguished speakers joining us today in this panel. This panel is titled "Are NFTs the Future of Collectibles?" So that's me as a moderator. I'll be moderating this panel. And with us today, we have Wei Lei Yu, Director of Marketing at Dapper Labs, and also Head of Marketing at Flow. Wei is joining us all the way from New York, so it's late at night for him over here, and he's joining us for this conference. And also, we also have Shamim Shahroom, co-founder of No2Scale Studio. So Shamim has issued a few NFTs, and it'll be interesting to hear from his perspective as a local artist on the NFTs that he's issued so far and some of the challenges and things that he sees in this medium. So before I get on to the introduction, a little bit about what we'll be discussing today. In this 1 hour session, we'll be talking about NFTs. NFTs stand for non-fungible tokens. It is one of the hottest areas within the blockchain space this year. It's grown like tremendously this year and have sort of revolutionized a lot of things. Collectibles being one of them, and has digitized everything that's deemed collectible, from arts to sports to music via blockchain technology. So in this panel, we will try to discuss what are NFTs, how they created, the use cases, and how they can change the landscape of the auction market. And lastly, also maybe how NFTs monetize and how do these marketplaces work. So yeah, I mean, we have an hour and we'll be talking about everything about NFTs and how it will be the future of collectibles. So we have two guys really at the forefront of NFT technology. So let's jump in, right? So thank you, Shamim and Wei, for taking the time to join us today. I guess to kickstart this panel session, right, it would be good to kind of get an introduction from the both of you. What do you guys do at your respective companies? Maybe we start with Wei. You want to start first?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Bobby, for the nice introduction. And hello, everyone. Thank you for having me in this panel. I guess a quick intro from my side. You can say I've been in the crypto space since 2017. I, of course, was learning about the space back when the Ethereum actually, first started to appear in the mainstream media, and also, when the initial ICO wave started. I jumped into the space actually with a different project on the Ethereum side called the Streamer, and I was the head of developer relations at that time. Helping them to grow the developer community around the world, and of course, I met a lot of initial wave of projects that you might see in DeFi, from Compound to Uniswap to the OGs from like MakerDAOs. Right, it was a pretty fun period. And then I guess in almost like 2 years ago, I joined the Dapper Labs team to help, practically launch the Flow blockchain. When I joined, wasn't public or launched yet. As director of product marketing and overseeing the marketing community for Flow around the world. So I have, I guess, overseen the community global growth around all the regions, including Asia and Southeast Asia, etc. And also I've been, I guess, working to support a lot of ecosystem projects on Flow blockchain with a go-to-market strategy. We'd love to share any insights or fun facts that you're all interested about today.
Shamim, yeah.
Hi, everyone. And good morning. Thank you for joining in for the session. Thank you for Bobby for the introduction as well. So I'm Shamin. I am one half of architecture, art and design studio, No2Scale. So we mainly deal with the physical, like interior designs, physical art installations in galleries, in public spaces. So I guess entrance into NFTs was really trying to look into the digital medium and where we can tap in, but specifically trying to merge the physical and the digital together, either through providing experiences through NFTs, which can be coupled with a physical experience, either concerts or a physical print. So I think to us, it's more of exploring the the bridging of the physical and the digital with NFTs. And we started it recently, I guess like early this year, because the other partner, Nadra, was already investing into crypto for quite a bit. So we were just looking into other ways into how our practice as a physical practice can look into this space and see opportunities within, you know, the metaverse, augmented reality, which we've been trying out, and then just trying to get other people as on board on it, as consultants maybe. Yeah, so that's where we are at with Notoscale. Yeah.
Cool. So I mean, crypto has evolved quite significantly since Bitcoin came about 12 years ago. I'm curious to hear from both of you, right? I mean, how do you guys end up going down the crypto NFT rabbit hole? I mean, was NFT kind of like your first draw into crypto, or you kind of got into Ethereum or Bitcoin? I'm curious to hear from the journey on how you ended up being involved with NFTs these days. Shamin, you want to go first? I'm not so sure. Yeah.
So as I mentioned earlier, I mean, I got into it, I guess, I'm speaking as a creative. As a creative, I think the whole crypto finance side might be a bit daunting, but I think NFTs are a good way for creatives to get into the idea of DeFi, the idea of decentralized finance. So for most people, for most creatives, it's great seeing that NFT is the gateway into crypto, and that in a way. And then you have a lot more people talking about the structure around cryptocurrency again right now among creatives. I think that's great. Whereas traditionally, it'll be hard to get creatives on board with any sort of financial services type of thing, right? So for a lot of creatives, it's the NFT has actually been an entryway into the larger crypto sphere. Yeah, that was it for me, at least. Yeah.
What about Wei? I mean, you mentioned briefly just now. Was it Bitcoin, Ethereum, then NFT, or has it been like Ethereum NFT directly, or was it like, I knew I'm going to be an NFT all this way, I'm just going to go jump into it?
Yeah. Well, I wish I jumped into the NFT. I guess more right in 2017. Like I guess that was actually when CryptoKitties was created. But no, interesting enough, actually I did. Almost like the full journey of crypto. Like when I first joined, the crypto space was all about the ethos about decentralization, you know, like democratizing access, lowering barrier, and also like, you know, being a global network from day one, right? Like all that was like amazing, and that's what drew me toward the crypto space. Because before that, you know, I was in a traditional tech, and the trend I was seeing was just like almost like inevitable, you know, silos and even more control centralization, which unfortunately 5 years later, that's actually exactly the case. And of course, like, you know, DeFi at that time was like, you know, or DeFi, like, or in general, like networks, right? Like utility network layer, there were the big, I guess, use cases. I agree with Charmaine, right? Like, why it was interesting and intriguing, the barrier to entry was still very high. So why, you know, I came in with the idea like, okay, we want to democratize access to a lot of those financial tools or like, you know, opportunities. The reality was like, yeah, it took a lot of education, and also the product that people built were very for the crypto niche, right? So if you're already in that space, it was great to be early, but if you're outside or you're for a more mainstream consumer, that was a very hard challenge. And that's why, like, you know, after many years, I started thinking, okay, what is like the best way to bring crypto mainstream? And that's why, you know, when I talked to the Dapper Labs team, that was like, okay, wow, maybe that's actually, you know, NFT, and, you know, what NFT was able to do back then with CryptoKitties and few of the, you know, initial projects, right, on OpenSea was already kind of like disruptive in a sense. But what I learned about, like, you know, the next wave of NFT, right, that you can talk later with NBA Top Shot and the true like mainstream corporation, right? That's what I guess we realized, like, access was also simplifying the product, and that's, you know, I did a 180-degree switch, and now I'm all about NFT every day.
Yeah, I think both of you shared really interesting journeys, right? I mean, I agree with you, Shamina. I also view NFT as the gateway drug for mainstream adoption. Like, I mean, people are interested in. I mean, a lot of people probably don't know or don't see the reason why we should adopt a lot of blockchain technology, or why decentralization is important in the first place. But I think NFTs. I've tried explaining Bitcoin, or even, forget about Ethereum. Like, to my parents or my friends, there's always a hard thing, right? I mean, nobody could really get it, but I think NFTs are probably easier. Like, you can kind of brand it in many different ways. You can skin a cat in different ways. Like, I mean, everybody understands why you want to buy an NFT, because you want to support a creative, like Shamin, for example, or why you want to buy NBA Top Shot card, for example, because you want to collect your favorite moment from like LeBron James, for example. But like, I mean, the others, like, they're so abstract, like Bitcoin. Why would you want to use Bitcoin when, like, I mean, traditional money works, for example? I mean, there are reasons for it, but like, a lot of people it's really hard to bridge that gap. Whereas NFTs, I mean, people understand it, they can see it, they can feel it to some extent, but it's underlying it is on blockchain technology. So that sort of explains a lot of things. But yeah, I kind of view this as like the mainstream gateway drug. So like, I think you're right in the sense that if you have to choose one niche for it to go mainstream, like which part of crypto, like NFT is probably the one that will go mainstream first. I mean, forget about DeFi, right? No one's going to understand what is DeFi. Only like a select group of like financial nerds will probably understand it. Like, I suppose people like me, who kind of get it, but like a lot of people just won't get it. So yeah, I think it's interesting perspective from you guys on how you end up with doing these things and all. So I guess to my next question, right? So in my presentation earlier, I gave a short primer on what NFTs are, and in my presentation, I shared that NFTs sort of have traversed many different categories where it represents art, people are tokenizing music, collectibles, game items, the metaverse, sports, utility, financial. There's so many, basically anything that you can think of can be represented as an NFT, basically. I'm curious to hear from you guys, right? Which sector do you think has the biggest potential for mainstream adoption, or what category will NFTs strive the most to get mainstream use case first? Shamin, you want to give any thoughts from you, and then we'll go way after that?
Yeah, sure, can. So I mean, based on our observations, helping other people out and then trying to get people on board with NFTs, I would say this is the context with Malaysia, I guess. So we foresee, I guess, music NFTs becoming a hit in Malaysia once the celebrities get in on it. So it's just, we predict sometime early next year when most of the like artists and celebrities in Malaysia will eventually adopt it. That's when it'll hit in mainstream Malaysia, I think. So for example, there's a lot of potential for music NFTs in bridging physical and digital experiences. So like fans have the opportunity to support musicians while getting exclusive content along the way. So for example, like we are helping a local Malaysian musician, Monologue, with his NFT collection. So we've logged the artist, and he's done vinyls, he's done CDs. So being able to expand that experience into NFTs was another way to give his fans something in audio-visual format that they could own. So his NFT was bought by an American, actually, a guy in Massachusetts, even though the song was actually mainly a traditional Nusantara piece, with gamelan pieces and all. So he was very surprised but happy of that. So it opened up his eyes into a much larger world beyond physical collectibles and just digital uploads onto Spotify. But there's this whole other world opening up that he can tap into. So music NFTs is something that would definitely take off, I think, in terms of mainstream adoption. That's what we've observed. Yeah, I would like to hear on Way's opinion on it.
I totally agree. Like, music is a great category. Like, I think there's nothing as universal as a music, right? Like, I think that has shown like tremendous impact on a global scale. I feel like other other categories that I personally have seen like that could not just like I guess potential, but the factor that I used to consider like if something can easily go mainstream is like how easily understandable is for people that have not seen or played with NFTs before, right? So and as Bobby mentioned, I think like NBA Top Shot, which is like in the sports category, had I would say like not zero barrier, but very low barrier to adoption in terms of understanding, because there's been so much popularity behind trading card, right, for those sports. Like you have the baseball trading card, your basketball trading card, soccer, etc. So people already had understanding of what it means to collect something, let's say a rare or a little more limited edition of something that you already love following, right? Which is the sport, right? Collecting favorite players. And up until like NBA Top Shot, you could only mostly collect your favorite players of like the different years, right? Rookie year or like championship. So what NBA Top Shot did was like augment the experience by allowing you to collect a moment, right? A play in the history, right? Like the best, I guess, like assists, the dunk, and like 3-pointers. I think like NBA Top, I mean, of course, NBA Top Shot is for NBA, but we have seen like already like other sports league, right? Like from soccer to NFL to even like UFC, etc., getting very interested in that, and we're seeing like a very high resonance with their fans, right? Like they see it, they understand it, and that's like, okay, when can I get in, right? Like so that side, I think we're seeing like a lot of promise, and also number, like not like I'm saying NBA Top Shot just because I know the numbers, like they onboard like more than a million collectors, right, within a year. So that is somehow a proof of like, okay, there's something there. Of course, it's just like so early stage. The other thing which I think like the audience might already be super aware is like gaming, right? Has become like so popular. In gaming already had like so many traits of the digital experience, because people have been buying like gaming skins for like decades already, and they have already used like digital tokens or coins, right? Fortnite, of course, you have your V-Bucks, but even 10 years ago, if anyone has played with any of the Tencent games, you could buy QQ coins. You can charge QQ coins at all these internet cafe points, and then use them to buy all the skins, upgrade your experience, right? So that's why I think Axie Infinity show with some possibility with play to earn, but I think there's a lot of richness behind like other models, right? Free to play, player-driven economy, all those things. I think like sports and gaming probably are the ones I seen, I guess, promising results.
Yeah, I agree. I think gaming is kind of like a really it's going to be big. Like I think the gaming industry is going to be upended in the next 1 to 2 years. I mean, I'm seeing so many investment decks from all these gaming companies trying to put in place play to earn elements. I mean, I think it'd be interesting. Like, I mean, a lot of people have a lot of free time. That's why games are such a big sector. People play it at night when they're bored. And what happens now is people are paying money to these game developers, these game companies, billions of dollars a year to kind of buy skin items. But like, what if these in-game items are NFTs instead, and people can kind of profit from these items that they purchase, and they can speculate in this market? And not only that, like games like XTs have shown that you could be paid to play these games as well. So that would be interesting. So especially for a lot of people like in developing countries, like in Malaysia, for example, like where wages are not very high, like, I mean, having a time to play while earning at the same time on a game is really interesting. And it really would be interesting to see why would anybody wants to drive a Grab, for example, an Uber or Grab, if you can earn as much money or almost as much money from playing a game for like Axie Infinity. So it'll be interesting to see how this plays out in all these different countries, not just in Malaysia and Philippines and so on. I guess let's jump on to the next question, right, guys? So to some of our audience here, right, it may seem incomprehensible that some people are willing to spend large amounts of money to buy an NFT. So for example, like 100 ETH to buy, it's kind of the floor price to buy a CryptoPunk right now. To put things in perspective, 100 ETH is roughly 300,000 US dollars or 1.2 million ringgit. That's a lot of money. You could buy a massive bungalow here for that amount of money. Why are people willing to spend 1.2 million ringgit to buy a JPEG, a picture of just a punk, for example? I mean, that quite frankly can be copy pasted by anyone, right? Why would you want to have a digital item that can be copy pasted when you can get a physical house that you know you can touch, feel, and all? So I'm curious to hear from your point of view, why are people willing to spend crazy amount of money on NFTs?
Wait, you want to start first?
Yeah, sure. I'm trying to think like what is the best angle. I guess like let's put it that way. Spending crazy amount of money on scarce collectible has been in the history of humankind, right? Like for as long as we remember. You know, for example, what does it mean, right, to spend like 10 million or even 50 million for a painting, right? Like you know, can you convert a painting to the equally rare materials? Probably not, right? Like probably the paint pigments are worth less than, you know, a few dollars nowadays. But we do attribute due to the scarcity because one is one-on-one original, hopefully, and two, you know, the painter or original author is not going to do another exact copy, or is impossible. So scarcity and high value has always been, I guess, part of our human nature. Now the question is like, why would you put that equal amount on a digital collectible versus a physical one, right? Like of equally digital scarce, let's say one-on-one. Some property that I observe over time, right? Even like personally, I'm thinking like, should I buy this physical copy of the painter that might be like 15,000? Should I buy like NFT that I think what equal, right? Like, or a house. And what happens, like the NFT holds some property that is very interesting that is actually very troublesome in the real world. For example, portability. If you spend the equal amount of money on your house, you cannot put in your pocket and move to another country next day. Is stuck there, is liquid, and you have to pay like a real estate agent and like, you know, the listing agent, and you know, like it's kind of, you know, troublesome, right? And the same with painting, right? Like you like if you buy like a $1 million painting, you need to pay for insurance, like, you know, where to host it, like, you know, how to keep it neat, and, you know, also restoration fee, etc. So all those properties make the NFT like almost like a nice to collect because you remove all those troublesome, let's say, aspect of a physical copy. Now the question is like, why is worth, like, what's the NFT per se worth when you can right click and save it, right? Like as you Bobby said, or I can take a picture. Well, the thing is like, it's less about the image that you can copy, because some people say you can take a picture of Mona Lisa, but does not mean you own the painting of Mona Lisa. But some people say, okay, but the NFT is digital and my picture, my copy is digital, and anything. But the essence is all about social trust or social credit. Like you own the essence, or like you have a guaranteed unique attribution that you own that asset, rather than the picture or the display of that one, right? So because we human, I believe, are such a almost a social and signaling creatures. You know, before COVID, we could wear our Rolex, we could get our Hermes bag, you know, go around and show people how much social status signaling is. But in the digital world, how do you do it, right? And that's why NFT plays a huge role. Like people don't care what your punk looks like, they care that you own one and how scarce it is, right? Like as a social signaling. And in addition to all the additional properties I mentioned compared to a physical painting, then it becomes like almost like the new generation way of collecting scarce painting, right? Which, trust me, people spend 50 million to collect the weirdest stuff. So a punk is not even on the top of the list, to be honest. But that's my personal interpretation why, like, you know, the new paradigm is changing, but the essence behind it of what we attribute as value from a human point of view is the same, right? Like,
no, I agree. Way. I mean, I mean, people have been spending crazy amounts of money on crazy stuff for a very long time on this world. I mean, the difference is just it's just that things are now transparent. I mean, people know who buys what, and everything's out there in terms of the numbers. So it's just people is aware of it more. I agree with Wei on also scarcity. So I think within the first NFT projects like CryptoPunks, CryptoKitties, it's all about provenance. So within the art world, provenance is also very important. So provenance meaning where does that project come from in its timeline. So if it's the first, then people are willing to go out of their way to invest in the first provenance. That's similar for artworks in the real world. It's similar for artworks in the digital world. So provenance drives scarcity, drives value, drives speculative values. So it's very much, I think I mean, if you take away all the tech, it comes down to basic human understanding of what drives our behavior in wanting to spend, which is essentially wanting all these things related, scarcity, provenance. So it's just an enabler that's NFT enables us to see these values upfront from all over the world. Macam, you know, someone's already buying a Rothko for like, I don't know, 300 million, but you don't know who the owner is. But now you know who the owner is of the Beeple one. So I think it's quite interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the other things that is worth highlighting as well is, I think in the physical world, I think there's a lot of items that we don't know which is real and which is fake, right? I mean, for example, you buy, if someone says he wants to resell his Rolex or his Hermes or LV bag, how do you know, or a piece of art, how do you know that this piece of art is the real Picasso, for example? Like, I mean, the art world has all these kind of issues, and then it's same for like a Kanye West Yeezy shoes, right? NFTs, but like they're physical, non-fungible items. How do you know that this shoe that you see on eBay or whatever other marketplace is the real shoe and not a rip-off, not a fake one that is produced somewhere else? The same for NFTs. Like NFTs, I suppose, like, you know that this NFT that you're buying, it has this trail, the provenance that shows that this is the legit, the real thing that you're buying. And once you buy them, like as Wei said, you know, it's a digital item. You don't have, I mean, you have to take precautions in storing them properly, but you don't have to, like, you know, make them, store them in the right temperature, maintain them in all the other troublesome things. And you can't, I mean, the Yeezys, you can move them around, but like you can't move a house cross borders. So a lot of these factors, I guess, a new way for people to collect items in the digital world, I suppose. That's kind of a good way of viewing NFTs. Yeah, next question I have, right? So, I mean, going back to the same CryptoPunk example where, like, I mean, the price to buy a punk right now is 100 ETH. But I mean, if you look back just 1 year ago, this punk was, I mean, nobody really wanted it. It was kind of like maybe 1 ETH or so, like just 1 year ago. What drove the rapid price increase in NFT this year? And I think where you were kind of at the forefront of this growth via the NBA Top Shop. People spend crazy amount of money for, I mean, a pack, like one of these moments would cost like $2 to $3, I suppose, to buy a moment. I mean, maybe $10 per pack, but some of these rare ones became like, I don't know, $100,000, $200,000. I mean, you might have some ideas on what drove the NFT market this year, why it's shown so much growth this year and drive the price up.
No, I agree. So I think like the legendary moments, I think at one point was like $250, something like a pack of them in the Top Shop. And then the highest one from LeBron James was 200 something K, right? That someone bought on the marketplace, which is like, no, astronomical, right? Like if you think the short timeline. But I guess like the interesting thing, like, and not to give credit to Dapper Labs, which, you know, was the company that launched like in the Top Shop. But what I've seen is like the NFT market was still kind of lukewarm toward the end of 2020, right? Like as you mentioned, the punk price was probably still like low, right, in the single ETH. And what happens, like, NBA Top Shop went quite crazy, like almost like exponential, right, toward like the early 2021, like, you know, February, March months, etc. So Top Shop was actually the first NFT experience that went mainstream and almost caught fire to become the fastest growing marketplace on the internet, not just NFT, right, but just overall fastest marketplace all around, because went from almost like few million to hundreds million within a month in terms like gross sales volume, right? And I think like that ignited the understanding that NFTs are here to stay, right? Like why CryptoKitties started the NFT movement back in 2017, and the adoption almost like sealed the notion like, okay, NFT is here to stay and it's going mainstream. And as almost like a catalyst that ignited the confidence across the NFT space. And that's like, between like March and later, like April is when like CryptoPunk just skyrocketed. Because now that people realize NFT is here to stay, what are the best assets in the NFT world I can own, right? And CryptoPunks and the CryptoKitties were the early OG of the OG, right? Some people call it blue chips, some of the projects nowadays, but those were, I guess, the most blue chip you can get. So I think like, I don't have like, the 100% right explanation why it went, crazy price, but I think like that confidence level and also how much mainstream, like NFT got so much, like, and the top shot about NFT space overall got like almost 10x more coverage than any DeFi or like fungible token ever did, right? In terms of interest level instead of criticism. So I think that is what caught people's attention. Like, okay, this is real, and I wanna, I guess take a part into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, I was really deep into DeFi late last year and coming into this year as well. And I think the NFT growth really surprised. I mean, I've always known NFTs for some time. I've been following NFT for the past few years, but I mean, I always knew that it's going to be mainstream one day. But I guess kind of surprised that it happened this year. It's really hard to predict things in crypto when things will go mainstream. Like what you thought will go mainstream take longer than expected, and what you think will not go mainstream so fast end up going mainstream quicker. I guess I have a question for you, Wei. Next one. You work in NFT, you work at Dapper Labs for the past couple of years, and during your time in the Dapper Labs, you guys have launched a few different NFT projects, starting off with CryptoKitties and then NBA Top Shot, and then now with the Flow blockchain, right? So I'm curious to hear from your point of view, what are some of the lessons that you guys have learned while embarking on this NFT journey in the past few years?
I mean, there's a lot of lessons that we learned and a lot of things that we wish we have known before, I guess bump into them and learning by, I guess, experience and pain. So I guess like going back and back to CryptoKitties, like I wasn't there yet when the team launched CryptoKitties, but as we launched NBA Top Shot, actually we did some retro analysis. The interesting thing about what we realized with NBA Top Shot and also by consequent CryptoKitties, like CryptoKitties was way ahead of its time by the complexity of it, like the genes, the breeding, the mutations, right? Like also like the generation, etc. Was very advanced even by nowadays standard, right? If you look at the punk, it's a very simple narrative, right? It's scarcity, it's art. When you look at NBA Top Shot, it's actually even like compared to CryptoKitties, like probably 1/10 of the complexity, because highlight moment, limited edition, and that's it, right? Like like there will be additional layer added to it. So what they taught us is like start with simplicity first, make it almost like that simple for people to understand, and then adding layer of narrative and complexity later, right, as the community grows. And coming from the DeFi world, when every project starts with a 50-page white paper, right, like to tell you how 10 different parties come together to make the perfect harmonious, protocol or whatever, right? Like it's almost like an inverse, right? Like, okay, you want to make something simple, two paragraphs to tell people what it is, and that also tells you like what type of community you want to onboard, right? That people are there for the experience of what the NFT stands for, rather than the complex or like super big dream deliverable or promises, right? So and that's the second learning lesson that I think not just data, but after supporting like tens or dozens of project launching flow is community first approach sounds simple and easy, but very few team understands what truly community management means, right? Which is not like a community is there for you to sell products whenever you feel ready, right? So that's almost like 90% of like, okay, I have a product ready. We had a lot of internal brainstorming. We think this is a killer project. Okay, what's the community that's ready to buy my product, right? You try to attract no, but the best community management, I guess, best project that knew how to manage the community properly or how to grow with the community, always start with a proposition. Okay, those are our assumptions. Now let's invite our initial budget community and validate them and iterate as we grow, right? Like with the pro and cons. We don't wanna you don't wanna listen to just the initial core community to just give them everything they want, because then you create a super small circle of just and it becomes very hard to scale later. But you want to continuously test, grow, and then test and grow and test in a way that your product becomes almost like organic and community driven at that point. Because even though that NFTs going mainstream, the core believer makes a huge difference. Like whether you have a strong core and what the foundation of that belief is in your project, that sets the tone for the entire growth. And that's a lesson I learned not just for NFT, but also for the Flow blockchain. Is like the initial composition of your core community and how diverse and spread out it is makes like whole growth like a different, right? So I think those two are the biggest lesson, I guess, I personally seen and learned, and they're super simple yet the hardest to grasp for many projects. That even when I talk personally, is not easy for them to get it. Right?
Thanks for sharing your perspective, Wei. That's really insightful. Yeah, I guess my question next. I have something for Charmaine. I'd like to get a perspective as an NFT artist, as a creative, right? I mean, do you think that NFTs are a game changer for the art community? Maybe from general and also more from your perspective as a creative in Malaysia. Does it change the game for you and for your other fellow creatives here in Malaysia? And also, I'm curious to hear from your thoughts. Like, what are your thoughts on the Beeper's $69 million NFT sale? I mean, I'm sure people in a creative perspective are also talking about it. I'm curious to hear, what are you guys thinking about it as well?
Thanks, Bobby, it's a great question. So basically, to sum it up, yes and no would be the short answer. But let me explain it further. So yes, because NFTs are a game changer for getting digital media to have a sort of a ownership mechanism similar to buying physical art. So that means you get people on the periphery of fine art being able to actually sell off their one-to-ones as a physical artwork again. So that in a way is valuable. No, because in a way it's just another way of commodifying what is considered art. I think I'll be frank here. So in Malaysia, at least, a lot of fine artists are real hesitant on NFTs. They're even skeptic due to various reasons. Either it's environmental or they worry over the commodification of art. Because all we hear is like selling things for 300,000 or how many enormous amount of money, right? But I think there's a lot of confusion of putting it all under the same blanket term NFT. So I think right now it's just about spreading awareness and education. I think it's important at this stage, and then making them realize that NFT is just a tool for them to further empower their creative practices. I think people get so caught up with picking a side, like NFT is good or NFT is bad, but they don't take a step back and see it from an objective point of view of what this tool means to them. So I think in Malaysia, at least, there's that camp. Are you in it or are you out? But it's not about that. It's about understanding the tool itself and what it can do for you and your practice. It's not for everyone. If you don't want to do it, it's okay, but you just have to be aware of it. I think that's really important that I want to share to people. So similarly with the Beeple issue, a lot of people, there's also camps. Some people don't agree. But I think it's great that people got that 70 million USD because he built up his community over 10 years, more than 10 years. He created that community. He gave out like knowledge to the community. He shared his models. So when the right tech come, which is like crypto and NFT, so that he could enable his creations to be on par with an artist like Damien Hirst, Rothko, I don't know who else, but that moment came, it was good for him. I think he rightly deserved it. Yeah, in that sense. I hope that, yeah.
Yeah, I think we were talking before this call as well, about how NFTs are just another medium. And then it's important for artists to sort of curate and engage their community, because these are the guys that, I mean, we want to buy some of the products. I mean, for example, I mean, Red Hongi was one that kind of, I think physical plus NFT is a kind of interesting medium to explore. And Red Hongi, one of the artists from Sabah, she kind of did. It doesn't really matter where the NFTs are issued, I suppose, but like the fact that she has a huge amount of following as an artist in Malaysia, and she managed to, I think, sell her Dogecoin art for 320,000 ringgit or so, I believe, was kind of like the, I mean, it's really curating the followers, and the followers are the ones that when they see value in something that is being put out, and they will assign appropriate value, whether it's underpriced or overpriced, and they bid accordingly and price the artwork, the NFT accordingly, I suppose. Yeah. I mean, I want to dive a little bit deeper into this, right, Shamin? So we also talked a little bit before this call, like, say if someone's really interested in issuing his NFT, say there's a budding artist who's listening to this call right now, and he wants to issue his own NFT. How do you suggest he go about minting his first NFT? Which platform should he use? And I'm curious to hear from you as well. Which platforms have you issued your NFTs, and why do you choose these platforms? And what do you think are like? I mean, there's no right and wrong answer, but I'm curious to hear what are your experience issuing your NFT on these various platforms.
Great question. I mean, to the audience out there. So basically, the platforms that you choose depends on what type of artwork or how do you want to be seen out there, because NFT as a marketplace, it's not a one not everything falls under the same category. Like we says, there's collectible sports, there's artwork, there's graphic art, so you have to know for yourself which type of segment within that NFT punya spectrum do you fit into, and then you will know what type of platform is suitable for you, whether it's more art curated oriented or it's more like collectible based like OpenSea. So you have to know for yourself what market segment are you fitting into the larger image lah. It's similar to, I would say, to an artist. It's similar to you putting an item on a shopping platform like Shopee. You have to know like which type of category do you fit into to better suit your presentation methods. So I think that's one. And then I guess I mean a lot of artists friends have been calling me up trying to ask, how do I get about in this space, right? And I would say, if you have, the most important thing is to have someone who is familiar. It's easy to search, but then you get lost easy. So it's easier if you have someone who is an acquaintance or a friend already within this field, and it's easier to be a part of a community. So I would suggest people to be involved with their respective communities. NFT, that everywhere sure got their own community of NFTs. So in Malaysia, we have NFXT community or Malaysia NFT. So these communities are on Discord. You can connect with them on Twitter. So being a part of that community is important because they'll lead you to the right way on where to mint, how to mint, because you can easily get lost within this space if you don't have a guide. So I think community building is very much an important thing within the crypto sphere as well as the NFT. People don't realize that the aspect of building a community is so important. It's not just about you minting something on OpenSea and then people will buy for 20 million. It's about building up social capital. It's about connecting to a wider base authentically, not trying to hard sell it. I mean, we're trying to do it. It is tough but it's no tougher than you selling something in real life. But so yeah, that's my point of view.
I'm curious to hear from you, Wei. Are you is this something? I mean, as an artist, can you issue NFTs on the Flow blockchain, and then is there a marketplace on the Flow blockchain, or that's not something that Flow's kind of focus, and Flow's more focused on getting more large institutions like NBA, Top Shot, and to kind of issue on the Flow chain?
No, definitely Flow is like is of course an open platform for almost like any type of experience. So yeah, we do have actually ecosystem partners building some of those platforms. For example, Vive, VIV3, that they are the kind of art marketplace similar to OpenSea, I guess closer to Variable, as like somehow curated marketplace where any artist can go there and send the application to mint the NFT there. And then we have My NFT, which is another NFT marketplace that is similar to Vibe, but they are focused on Asia artists, right? So My NFT is similarly, like artists can go there, send the application and get featured on there. But actually, something interesting that I really like about on Flow is a platform called Versus.auction. And what is interesting is like, how like the normal auction model is like, you have like, one unique edition and people come in and bid, right? And usually you might see like 5 to 10 people bidding, because usually like they're mostly whales. Because normal people that know very well that they will not make, right, the cut. But what Versus auction does is it allows artists to hold 2 parallel auctions. One is a unique one of one, and the other side is a limited edition of, let's say, editions of 10 or 20. So what happens, like, people can come in and bid on the unique auction, or people can come and bid on the limited edition side, and within that they can bid how much they are willing to pay for each edition, like number, right? Like 1 or 20, 2 or 20, 3. So what happens is almost a game where it's like big collector well against the community of collectors, right? So then at the end of the auction, like whichever sum on the side is the largest, that will win. So which means like the artist always gets the best outcome, right? Because as an artist, you're like, I might like, should I do like a one-on-one unique auction? Should I do like a limited edition set, right? But with the auction model, artists will always get the best size, and then the community will have a fair outcome, because whichever side actually has the biggest strength, or like more willingness. What like interesting lesson we learned from that is that you might think big whales usually always win, but on the Versus auction, 80% of the time the edition side actually won all the time. Like, so which means like when you think about it, right? Like you always think like, okay, the majority of people cannot afford, right? Like the same value that whales are paying for, but it's the contrary. Like if you give enough opportunity to participate, actually the collective perceived value is way higher than what a single person attributes to your art, right? So it's not like, to answer directly your question about like, of course, there are many places people can participate, but there are also way more innovative way for artists to, I guess, engage the community to just purely selling, right? There's like, and there's so many new ways that are still to be discovered. But I agree with Shamin, like, it's not just about minting and selling, but it's about creating a follower, right? Like, and artists should never go with the idea like, I need to sell for 10,000 or 100,000, or I'm considered a failure. Like NFT, you can very well start selling for a few $100s, right? Or like just to get your hands like into the game and like get used to it, build a community, and then scale from there too. Like.
Yeah, I like that perspective, right? Where I mean, I've spoken to some artists before, and some of them maybe put too much pressure on themselves by saying that my art has to be sold for at least X amount of dollars, otherwise he's considered a failure. And then, I mean, it's fine for the first 2, but then when he wants to issue subsequent pieces, he said that I've got a perceived floor price of X number of dollars, and I don't want to sell my next piece at a lower price. So he sets up really undue pressure on himself to really perform. But the key is to really engage your community to kind of build your following. I think we are entering a world where the creator economy, where individuals have a lot of power to engage with their followers directly. I think before the internet was invented, there was there's all gatekeepers. Artists always have to go through art galleries, and the art galleries are the gatekeepers of what the buyers can buy, I suppose. But in this digital NFT world, it's really on the artists themselves, the creatives themselves, to really engage with their followers and build their following. The larger your following will be, the higher the chance there will be a rich guy who will want to bid a high amount on your piece. And these collectors, they are smart collectors. They are collectors that want to bid on artists that have a strong growth and following. If the artists are kind of like, man, not really growing, and it's kind of like doesn't really engage, like he doesn't really want to bid on him, because there's very low likelihood that this piece will hold value over a long period of time. So that's at least from my observation in the NFT space. So yeah, guys, I guess we have about like 7 minutes to go before we wrap up this session. So I'm just going to ask one or two final questions. Maybe I just could combine them and then just feel free to jump in. So I'm curious to hear, how do you see the NFT space maturing in the coming years? And because things change so fast, how do you stay updated in this fast-moving NFT space? So we start with Shamim, and then we go away, and then we probably end the session.
Great question. So in terms of how do I see NFTs moving forward, I'm coming from an architecture background and design. So I'm interested in NFTs beyond the art and collectible space now. So it's more of, I'm looking into how can smart contracts replace conventional project contracts, authenticating certificates for colleges, universities, land title deeds. I think this is, like for example, land title deeds. These are currently now just papers in public records, which gets lost. So people lose their land over just losing out a piece of paper, and this could be replaced by NFTs, to be honest. So these are the spaces that the audience should be looking towards. I'm saying this because all that is portrayed now about NFTs in the media is angled towards the art and collectible side. So people who aren't from that background aren't necessarily going to have an interest in it. Whereas the potential and application of NFTs goes far beyond that segment. And the audience should be made aware of the opportunity. I think it's going to go far beyond what we think is NFTs in terms of collectibles now. The use of it will definitely expand further. I mean, the second question, how do I keep up, is basically just keeping up with multiple sources, like on Twitter Space, jumping with in and out between various Discord groups, and then being involved in sessions such as this with you guys. In terms of getting, exchanging information, sharing information. I think sessions like this is very important to be relevant and to keep up with the times. Yeah. So thanks, Bobby.
Good question. Wow. I think like I'm almost like going to hope that NFT, the crypto space, goes to the opposite direction of instead of going all higher price and more exclusivity. I really hope like in more platforms, and I've seen like initial trend of it, to make it more affordable, right? Like because if we go to the punk way, or like crypto punks, or like the high collectible area, like is not going to hit the mark that we are all hoping for, which is mainstream adoption, right? What I hope is the opposite, right? Like empower the everyday artists, like similar to like what Patreon, or like I guess like similar, like GoFundMe, where like we have a way for like new artists to come in and say, hey, I want to experiment, and I'm happy to get just like few like $10 for my painting, right? Of like 10 edition, just to get my initial experience, and like the whole like, but also tap into a global community. So I would much rather see a platform that rewards 10,000 artists with like $10 each, right? Like every week or every month, than like a single artist doing like a 10 million or like so, right? Because when that truly happens, when I think like crypto becomes ubiquitous, like you will not question anymore if the creator that you're backing will give you an NFT, because that would be de facto the standard, right? It's like, why would they not give you an NFT instead of just sending like an email picture, right? Like that would become like so weird. It's almost like Bobby, like instead of sending a text, I'm sending you a snail mail. That like that probably like will be like the perception one day. So that's, I guess, the trend I'm really hoping to see. And then how to get stay in the loop. I would say like Twitter is still like probably like by far the most like the easiest way for people to get the latest of what others think. And beyond Twitter and following like of course people in the circle is your local community and local Discord, as Shamin mentioned, like that can give you a huge wealth of knowledge, and especially like all the common pitfalls that you can avoid, right? Misconceptions like those, like hear from the veterans so you don't repeat the same mistakes.
Yeah, likewise. I mean, I stay updated by following Twitter. There's a lot of NFT influencers, maybe not influencers, but like people who are really knowledgeable on NFTs, and they share the updates on Twitter. And also there's a few Telegram channels, I suppose, that shares all the created summaries of all the news online. And I think the interesting part of NFTs is that I like to say that I like to think of it as ownership rights on the internet. Before NFTs, it's really hard to assign ownership rights to somebody, whereas with NFTs, if you own the NFT, you have ownership of that particular thing. And what particular thing it could be, it could represent anything. It could be represent an event ticket, it could represent ownership to an art piece, a collectible. You could even stretch it further by thinking about IP, trademarks, and so on. So basically, it's NFTs ownership rights on the internet, so it can represent properties and many more as well. So I guess we're running out of time. So thank you very much, Shamim and Wei, for spending the time to talk to us about NFTs today. I think we've covered a lot of interesting topics today. Thank you very much once again for coming here today.
Thank you, Bobby.
Thank you for having us. Thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.